Hi, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making meat pies. Meat pies and other hand pies like this are a staple across Australia and they are delicious. So if you're ever lucky enough to visit, be sure to visit a pie shop so you can taste all of the delicious versions that are out there, probably endless. I'm going to try to simplify this process for you as much as possible. So let's get started making our meat pies. The first part of this recipe is we are making a fortified beef stock, and this is probably the most important part of this whole recipe, so do not skip this step or skimp on any parts of it. So in my saucepan here, I have about 2 tablespoons of oil, and I'm adding 4 pieces of thick cut bacon and about a pound of beef, which just buy whatever's the cheapest, because you're gonna throw this meat out and it's gonna get really loud because it's high. It's medium high heat, but we're sizzling. So what we're doing here is we are trying to brown this meat. So we're not gonna touch it a lot because we want that color to get on there. And if we keep stirring it, then you don't get a chance for the individual sides to get brown. So we're gonna pay very close attention to this. We're gonna scrape the bottom if it starts getting too brown, but we want this thoroughly browned. Brown is flavor. Again, we're making like a fortified beef stock, and it's super important to make sure that you have those brown bits in there. So I will see you in a second because this is a process that takes a little while. So it's been in a minute or two, and I just wanted to show you we already have some really nice browning happening in here, but it's not even close to being where we want it to be. So we're gonna continue this process for probably another 6 to 8 minutes. Really depends on the heat of your stove and how much moisture is coming out of the meat and all that stuff. So I will keep showing you what this looks like until we get to the stage where we are done. All right, it's been about 4 or 5 more minutes. We're getting really close. My heat is on high, by the way. It just takes a lot of temperature to sear off this meat. It doesn't happen on a low and slow basis, but you can see we're pretty close. We have a lot of nice browning in here. I'm paying particular attention to the sides of my pan because for some reason that seems to be where the brown stuff likes to accumulate. But we're pretty close. I am going to give us maybe another 2 minutes or so, and then we'll start adding our vegetables. Okay, this looks great. So now we're gonna add our vegetables, and we're adding an onion with just chopped with the skin on, and we're adding about 6 small garlic cloves, or like 4 large garlic cloves, just cut in half, again with the skin on. It's kind of cool because this is just a stock base. We're going to be straining all of this stuff out, and so you don't even have to worry about peeling your onions. How fantastic is that? We're also going to add about 6 sprigs of thyme. Thyme comes in these big bunches sometimes, so I'm just chucking those in. 2 bay leaves. If you have small ones, you can use 3. If you have like mega ones, you could use 2. These are kind of on the largish side. And we're also going to add about a teaspoon of whole black peppercorns. Just dump those right in. How great are recipes like this where you don't have to like worry about that stuff? It's pretty awesome. I'm going to lower my heat a little bit. We want to work the stuff off the sides of the pan, and we want to brown our veggies, but we don't want to burn anything. So we don't really need it at high heat again, but you keep it up pretty high, not super crazy high. I'm probably about on a medium high right now, and I will turn it down if I need to. We're gonna keep cooking these onions and other ingredients probably for another 6 minutes or so until the onions are translucent. I want you to keep scraping the sides and the bottom of the pan. Make sure you don't accumulate anything that's burned looking, and I will see you in a minute. All right, it's been about 6 more minutes, and now we are going to deglaze this pan with a 1/4 cup of brandy and a 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce. Most meat pie recipes have Worcestershire in them. A lot of them did not have any kind of herbs or anything, which surprised me, but this one does, and it is delicious. So now I can kind of splash that up the sides. Got these caramelized bits that were stuck on there, all that flavor, so good. This is a really, really good recipe, you guys. I love this recipe. And what we're gonna do now is this is just going to cook until all of that liquid has evaporated, and I will see you back in just a minute. So most of our liquid is evaporated. What's left at the bottom there is mostly fat. And now it is time to add a cup of really high quality chicken stock. I made this one myself. I've got it in a 2-cup measure, so it looks like we're about there. Doesn't have to be that precise. You want good quality chicken stock because this is really one of the backbones of this recipe. We're fortifying a beef stock, but the chicken stock needs to be good quality too. So if you want to see my recipe for brown chicken stock, it is on my website, thegamblingchef.com. I highly recommend it. It is really easy and delicious. I wouldn't necessarily, if you're going to go the trouble and make this dish, try to get good quality chicken stock because, you know, it's worth it. So what we're going to do now is we are going to reduce this 1 cup of chicken stock until it's totally gone. In total, we're gonna end up adding 6 cups of chicken stock. And we're going through this reduction process to really soak all the juices and deliciousness out of our ingredients. So I will let this reduce and I will see you guys in a couple minutes. All right, I think we're there. If you're not sure, the sound of your pan will change. This is like a lot more sizzly than it was. And also if you can see the bottom of your pan like that, you're definitely reduced enough. We're gonna add 1 more cup of chicken stock, and we are going to repeat that exact same process. Then we're gonna add some more chicken stock, and we're gonna do it again, but for a longer time and with more stock for our final reduction. This smells really good, by the way. If you're making this at home and everyone starts going, oh my gosh, what is that smell? Then you can tell them that you've got some amazing meat pies around the corner. So again, I'll let this reduce until all the liquid has evaporated, and I'll see you then. All right, we are there again. As you can see, my liquid has mostly evaporated, and now I am going to add 4 cups of stock. And we're gonna cook this for another 45 to 50 minutes over pretty low heat. I'm gonna bring this to a boil first, and then I'm gonna lower the heat. And then again, we'll cook it for 45 to 50 minutes. And then we are gonna strain it off, give it a final reduction, and our fortified stock will be ready. Believe me, it's worth it. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, this has finished reducing. I just turned the heat off. You can see there's all sorts of scum and stuff in here, and that is why right now I am gonna go and I'm gonna run this through a strainer, and then we're gonna put it back in here and reduce it even more. So let's go do that. I will see you in a second. Here's my big strainer that I'm gonna use, by the way, just so you have an idea of the right kind of thing. This has these nice little lips so you can hook it over the edge. I'm gonna use a metal bowl, and I'm gonna dump the stock in there. And once it's strained, I will start recording again. Okay, I didn't wash my pan out. I just gave it a really quick rinse to wash out any thyme leaves that might be sticking to it. And when I strained this, I really pressed this down. I strained it into a bowl, and then I just poured it back into the pan. But if you don't do this, you're not gonna get all of the stuff out of there. And this stuff has given up all its flavor. It is done. I mean, if you like really dry beef and you want to eat it, then go for it. I'm not going to judge you. So now we are going to turn this back on and we are going to reduce this again until it has reached 1 1/4 cups of liquid. So right now I would say we're probably at about 2 cups. So we need this to concentrate down into 1 1/4 cups. And then that is our stock. And making the beef mixture is like super easy because it has this stock in it, which has all this flavor. I'm also probably going to try to strain out some of this fat after it has reduced because it's pretty fatty from the oil from the bacon and the oil we use to cook everything in. So I will bring this to a boil, let it reduce for a while until it reaches 1 1/4 cups. It'll probably take about, I don't know, 10 minutes depending. You can do that over high heat. And I'll show you the finished stock and then we'll make our beef mixture. Okay, I just checked the stock just to show you. It is almost there, but it needs to reduce probably by another 1/2 cup. So it's gonna start looking really dark brown and gorgeous. And you just wanna take the time to do this. And in order to test it, I just poured into a 2-cup measure and see if we're there yet. But I'm not gonna have to do that again because I think I will be able to tell this time when we're at the right stage, but I will show it to you when I measure it out. See you in a second. Okay, I have our 1 1/4 cups of stock. There's a little bit of fat on the top, so it's gonna take that down just a teeny bit. We're gonna skim that off later. And I'm not gonna wash this pan out because we are gonna do our meat mixture in there. So let's get started with that. Okay, in my same beautiful pan here, I've got some oil heating. I did wipe the pan out a little bit. I started doing this and then something started burning, but I didn't clean it out all the way. This is a pound of ground beef. This is 80/20 beef. You do not want to use a leaner beef for this. If you do, everything is gonna be stringy. I can promise you that. And how do I know that? Because I tried it with about a 90/10 and it was a bad idea. 80/10 just means that the beef has 80% meat and 20% fat, and that is exactly what we want for this. We do not want a lean beef because it'll make these weird stringy things, and this is going to cook down nicely instead. There's a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan that I put in, probably about a tablespoon or 2. And this is over pretty high meat, this is over pretty high heat because we do want to try to brown this as much as possible. Although we also want to break it up while it's cooking. So this doesn't have to be like dark brown. We're not trying to do that, but we are trying to get a little bit of color on here. Don't worry about the fat. We are going to drain the fat out of this. So it is going to be a little bit leaner. So, but again, if you try to use that leaner beef, it is not going to, I mean, it didn't taste horrible, but it's just stringy. Like the meat doesn't dissolve nicely. You'll see this dissolves into the nice, you know, little fine pieces we're used to for tacos or whatnot. And the 80/10 is perfect for that. Whereas like a 90/10, sorry, 80/20 is perfect for that. Whereas a 90/10, like what I used last time I made this, it would be better for like a hamburger patty or something. It's not good for this kind of pan sauteing because you're not going to get these beautiful, the fine texture that we're getting. You can already see that it's in these nice little pieces. One thing I wasn't prepared for was how expensive ground beef was right now. That was a shocker. I mean, I had to, if I wanted a good price, I had to buy like a bulk, and I just don't eat enough red meat. So, nope, that didn't happen. Okay, I'm gonna finish cooking this and I will be right back. Okay, I've been cooking this a couple more minutes and it is cooked through now, and that's basically what we're looking for. So I am going to remove this from the heat. I'm gonna turn the heat off right now, And I am going to actually put this meat in a strainer, and we're gonna strain out some of the fat and then use some of the fat to cook our vegetables. So I'll be right back. Okay, I strained the beef and I put about 1.5 tablespoons of the fat back in this pan. And now I'm gonna add an onion and 2 cloves of smashed garlic. You can chop up your garlic all the way. I don't love super strong garlic flavors. I know a lot of people do, and that's totally fine. So when I add garlic to things, a lot of times I will just smash the cloves. You can see they're right here. And then I can pull them out if I want to. And they still give it a garlic flavor, but not as intense of a garlic flavor. And the onions should pick up all those brown bits. And at this point, I am gonna season with some salt. We're gonna start seasoning now. Also could have seasoned the beef and I just didn't think about it, but we'll season it when we get it back in the pan here. So we're gonna cook these onions and the garlic for about 8 to 10 minutes or until they are nicely translucent. And again, I'm gonna continue to scrape up these bits of delicious brownness in our pan, and I will see you back when the onions are done. Okay, our onions are soft, so we are gonna put the beef back in the pan. And now we're gonna add that magical ingredient that we worked so hard for, which is our incredible fortified beef stock. And that is all going in. That is where the flavor is in this recipe. So delicious. Oh my goodness. You can make a lot of parts of this in advance too, by the way. You can definitely make that stock well in advance and freeze it or refrigerate it. And you can also make this beef mixture days in advance and refrigerate it and freeze it. Refrigerate or freeze it, I should say, to use later. That way you don't have to do everything all on the same day. So how fantastic is that? Okay, so I was just bringing this to a boil at this point. We really don't need to do a lot more cooking with this. I am gonna give it a taste though in a second. But first what we're gonna do, I'm gonna wait till this reaches a little bit more of a boil because I need to add some cornstarch to this to thicken it. So let me crank my heat up a little bit. Cornstarch does need to boil to properly thicken. Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna decide if I wanna cook any of this. I'm just cooking the sauce out just a teeny bit. So we don't want too much liquid in there. Okay, so I'm gonna add some cornstarch that I've mixed with water. And we are gonna stir that in and allow that to thicken our sauce, which it will before your very eyes, I have a feeling. There we go, beautiful. I'm just gonna add, I have a little bit left in here. I'm just gonna dump that in. If you don't have cornstarch, you can take 2 tablespoons of softened butter and mix that with 2 tablespoons of flour and dump that in, and that will also thicken this for you. Okay, that looks great. I'm gonna turn the heat off. I'm gonna get my little spoon in here and taste this deliciousness, see if we need salt. So much flavor. Doesn't need a lot of salt. We don't salt that stock in the beginning on purpose because if you did, it would end up being way too salty. So I think that should be enough salt. And I will just stir that together. It's perfect. It's nice and thick, and it's going to be our beautiful meat pie filling. So this needs to cool off completely before we make our pies. You can't put hot stuffing in a pie, and you don't want to put cold stuffing in a pie. So you want to bring this to room temperature. So if you're making it ahead and you refrigerate it, then take it out of the fridge, bring it to room temperature. If you're making it day of, then make sure that this whole pot reaches room temperature. And the fastest way for that to happen would be to put it out on like a sheet tray or something. And then I'm going to see you back when we are ready to roll out our pastry and make our meat pies. We're almost there. I hope you're enjoying the journey. Okay, it is time to make our meat pies. I'm super excited. And the first thing you need to do is roll out your pie dough. This is my pie dough recipe. It's on thegamblingchef.com under the recipes page. So you can make this one if you want. Just leave out the sugar. Or you can buy a pre-made pie dough, or you could use puff pastry. And the most important thing to do is find a cutter. Here's my muffin tin, right? You want to find a cutter that's like a little bit bigger than your muffin tin hole. So this is like a piece of Tupperware stuff that I have. And we're going to cut out circles. And then we are going to put those in our muffin tin. So I'm going to do 2 and then I'll show you how that works. And this is enough for 12. So these dough circles, you want to stretch them out a little bit actually, because we want them to go up the sides of the muffin pan a little bit. Don't go like too crazy with stretching. But when I set this in here, seeing one that you can actually see on the camera. So I am going to push this guy down in here, and we want to try to get it to go all the way up the sides if we can. It's a little more tricky for me with my glam nails that I have that are, you know, not the most practical for baking necessarily, but I'm not in a professional kitchen, so it doesn't matter. I am at home. And for me, so I am using my knuckle to push this up the sides. And then we have our, and then just gently push it on the bottom. Then we have our tins lined with our pie dough. So I'm going to do that first with 12. And then I will show you how to do the lids, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to show you the last one because I think I said I would show you 2. So I'm taking my little piece of dough, I'm just stretching it a little bit. And then if you don't have these glam nails like I have, you can use your fingers to press this in. I am putting it in, giving it a little shove with my hand. Try not to press too hard. The dough's pretty thin in some places, but I'm not worried about it because I know it's going to come out perfect. And then you just want to make sure that you get it snug against the sides. Is that okay? Actually, I do have a little hole in this one. Of course, the one I show you, I get a hole in. Oh, that's just how life goes sometimes. That's okay. I fixed it. This dough is pretty pliable at this point, and it's going to be pretty forgiving in this type of baked good. So I don't want it to overhang on the sides too much. I want it to do that a little bit so that we don't have too much spillage when these bake out. If they're like a little low like this one, you can just kind of pull it up and just pull it over the rim a little bit. So these are now going to go into the freezer while we make our lids, and I will show you how to do that. All right, there are recipes where it's not a great idea to re-roll your dough out, but this is not one of them. This one's pretty, again, forgiving. And I'm taking this cup that I have that is a smaller, this is about the exact size of my muffin cup versus a little bit wider. And I'm going to use that. And I put a little flour on this. And I'm going to cut out 12 lids. And I might even have to roll this out again for the last couple pieces. And again, that is totally fine. So I've got 1, 2, 10. I need to do 2 more. I'm going to have just enough. And let me do that. I will be right back. All right, my last 2. Here we go. 1, 2. So little waste. My recipe for pie dough has 1 2/3 cups of flour in it. So that's just enough. If you have a recipe that's only 1.5 cups of flour, it's probably not going to be quite enough pie dough. So you're going to want to increase that. Or if you buy pie dough, you probably definitely want to buy a deep dish version. So now that those are all cut out, I put them on a rack. These are going to go in the freezer while we fill our shells with the meat filling. So here are our shells. They don't need to be super cold, but when they sit out, when you're working on them, they do tend to get a little too soft. So it's good to pop in the freezer for a couple of minutes, which is why it's the perfect opportunity when we are doing the lids. I have my cooled meat filling over here, and I am going to place a couple tablespoons of that into my meat pies. And this is where we get a little bit controversial. So the Australian version of meat pies does not have cheese. That's not traditional. But the first time I had meat pies was actually a New Zealand recipe, and it does have cheese. So we're gonna do some with cheese. I might do all with cheese. Apologies to my Australians. If you want authentic, just leave the cheese out. But I'm gonna use a nice English cheddar for these, and it's going to be delicious. So I'd say I'm putting a couple tablespoons and not quite going all the way to the top, because again, we're gonna put that cheese in there, and that is going to fill it up even more. I feel like I'm being pretty neat and tidy right now, so you should congratulate me on that, because that's not always my forte. So far, so good. And you can press this down a little bit because sometimes the bottom of the pastry shells, it's hard to get all the way down there. See, I knew I was going to start spilling stuff. I'm going to finish putting my filling in these, and then I'll show you what it's like to put the cheese on the top. All right, done. I took the circles out of the freezer, by the way. We don't want those too hard. So while we're doing our cheese, or not doing our cheese, we'll let those come back up a little bit. So I have about 3, maybe 3.5 ounces of English cheddar. English cheddar is white, and it has absolutely, basically almost no relation to the cheddar cheese that we have here in the United States. I'm not even sure why we call our cheese cheddar cheese, because I mean, obviously the English version came first, but tastes completely different, and it is quite savory, quite delicious. So I'm just putting a little pinch in them, and trying to get the pieces not to hang too much over the side, but it's not critically important. So I'd say I'm putting like maybe a teaspoon or so, maybe slightly more than a teaspoon into each shell. We don't want to get it too crazy, overflowed with cheese, and you don't want to overwhelm the beautiful beef flavor that we worked so hard on with the cheese. So I'll finish putting the cheese on these. Sorry, Australians, if that offends you. And I will be right back. All right, the cheese is on quite beautifully, if I do say so myself. And now we are going to do the lids. So again, I'm going to give these just a little stretch, not a lot, so that they are the right size to cover our beautiful pies. And the reason I'm stretching them so that we can crimp the edges a little bit. And we'll go back with a spoon and do more of that, but they should be like this, where it covers it. I'll show you a few more. Again, gently stretching just a little bit and placing it on the top and giving it a little press around the edges. And gorgeous. Okay, I will finish doing that, and then we just have a really quick little egg wash to do, and they're gonna bake. So I will be right back. All right, they are all done, and I'm just gonna do a little tidying up, which means I'm taking a spoon and I'm just scraping the edges if they kind of went over the side. Here, I'll do one that's like super large, and you can kind of like tuck it down into the muffin cup. And this is also going to help it seal, because if you've got any little spots that you look like they aren't sealed, then you can go in with your little spoon and do that. And it's just a way to get a really nice, perfect, well, nothing's perfect, but as close to perfect as possible of a seal. There are worse things in life than seeing brown juices leaking out of a delicious meat pie. So, you know, I feel like this helps the seal also. You can kind of use the spoon to press it in. So I'll finish doing that. I only have a couple more to do and I'll be right back. Okay, home stretch, yay. The last thing that I'm going to do is brush a little bit of egg wash on the top. That just gives us a nice shine so that they have a beautiful gloss when they come out of the oven. This is just some egg that I beat up with a little bit of water, and it's going to be way more than enough egg wash for these guys. So we're going to do that real quickly. And the very, very last step before they go in the oven is just to give them a little poke in the middle so that you get a little vent hole going for them so that they have somewhere for the steam to go. You can do an X if you want to. I'm just doing a simple poke. And that is it. These are going in a 355-degree oven for, I'm going to put them in for 30 minutes and I'm going to check. It could take 45 minutes. It kind of depends. So I will let you know later, but I will see you next when these are out of the oven. I hope you are excited like I am. I am super excited about this. See you in a little while. All right, our meat pies are out of the oven. I did forget to tell you that some leakage is normal and you do want to put a tray underneath. I actually forgot and I had a little bit of smokiness going on in my oven. You can see they do tend to explode with a little bit of meat juices, but they look gorgeous and golden, and they're going to need to sit here and cool, I would say 15 to 20 minutes before you try to take them out of the muffin containers. I wouldn't let them cool all the way because you have kind of some cheese overflow and stuff that is going to end up sticking if you let it harden all the way. So to unmold them, you're just going to take a knife like this and you're going to run it around the outside and gently lift them out. And I can't taste these tonight, sadly, because it's getting a little bit late, but I will taste these with you tomorrow. I can't wait. Okay, it's time to taste our meat pies. I am excited. I've tasted these before, but I don't get sad about tasting them again. They're so savory. That time that we spent to get that perfect fortified beef stock was totally worth it. They're amazingly delicious. I'm gonna have another bite of these. When I turn the camera off, I'm gonna probably shove this whole piece in my mouth actually. Please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Facebook. And please like my videos. It really helps support me. You can find this and all of my recipes at thegamblingchef.com. I'll see you next time.